Hey everyone, how are we doing out there in Final Cut Pro land today? My name is Richard Taylor and this is Final Cut TV. Just going to make sure I'm just going to check the audio real quick. Audio sounds completely fine. So there's a couple of things that have happened today, and we are going to be talking about those. So the first thing is, first off, we've been talking about Final Cut 10.6.3 for a while now, right? I mean, we've been talking about it for about 10 days, 2 weeks, something like that. If you've been following Final Cut Pro Radio, you know we've been talking about it for... Well, we had this, Final Cut Pro 10.6.3. Let me see. Right there, we talked about it on, what date was that? May the 6th. We talked about Final Cut Pro 10.6.3 coming out. And one of the things that we talked about specifically was the bug fix for the transitions. It used to be, and once again, apparently is, I have not updated Final Cut Pro yet to 10.6.3. You used to be able to drag a transition from the transition browser to a connected clip, and it would place the connected clip inside of a secondary storyline and put a transition at the beginning and the end of that connected clip. Well, 10.6.3 changed that behavior. 10.6.2 came out and broke that behavior or changed that behavior, whichever way you want to look at it. Good day, Richard, from our friend Roz. Jason Mark Williams, hello, Richard Taylor. How you doing? So I got back from NAB, and there's a lot of exciting things that happened there. It was incredibly successful NAB considering the fact of the pandemic and everything. So, but anyway, so Final Cut Pro 10.6.3 has been announced. It's not just been announced, it's actually out, right? 10.6.3 came out today. It improves reliability when using drag and drop to replace a transition and improves reliability when dragging a transition onto a connected clip. Both. It does both. But I didn't know about the second one. I've heard enough about the dragging the transition and it not working like it used to. So that's one of the things we're going to talk about today. But 10.6.3. But there's also something else that happened today. Hi, Richard. Nice seeing you at NAB, and thank you for all your updates for Final Cut Pro. This is what I do. This Final Cut Pro, this FCP Final Cut TV is for you to make your comments. This is for you to be heard. Of course, I'll be talking as well, but this is for you to be heard. You make your comments. The Final Cut Pro team absolutely watches this show. They are the best in the world. Our friend Yari says, greetings from Finland, 10.6.3 working fine, got my audio effects back. Yari, tell me what the problem was with your missing audio effects. I'm not sure which ones were missing, but you said they were missing, so tell me what they were. Yari's watching from all the way from Finland. So we have two main things to talk about today. Number one, 10.6.3. there's not a whole lot to talk about there other than it was a bug fix, which is what we were expecting, what we've been talking about for forever, right? We've been talking about it for like 2 weeks, 3 weeks now. There's 10.6.3. We talked about it before on one of our Final Cut Fridays, one of the NAB recaps. We've been talking about it. Specifically, I've been saying that 10.6.3 was going to fix the transition bug. Well, 10.6.3 was going to be a bug fix, and it was going to fix the transition bug that was introduced in 10.6.2. So when did 10.6.2 come out? A month ago? Was it a month? Right before NAB? Maybe 5 weeks. So this is what's happened in the past. They put out a feature update, and then 30 days later, 3 weeks, 4 weeks later, they come out with a bug fix to fix bugs that were introduced in the update that just came out. So 10.6.2 was a nice update right before NAB, a couple weeks before NAB. And then it introduced the transition bug, which I think was the main bug. So what I'm going to say today, first off, there are things that I can't talk about. There are a few things I can't talk about, but I can make references that you might pick up on. And one of the things I'm going to talk about today, because I'm allowed to, is if you notice what's going on, let me pull this up. If you notice what's going on between Apple and FMC, there's a partnership there that's happening. So training, certifications, inspiration for creative users, online interactive courses, certification, prep, and exams. There's a new, well, I'm not going to say it's new. It's not really new. It's a continuing and maybe renewed relationship with Future Media Conferences and Apple. Okay? This is something to keep your eye on. Now, certification, prep, and exams, they have announced that these are going to be coming in May. And I am going to say, let me just check the calendar. Let me just check. So today's the 19th. So I don't think they would be out Memorial Day week, which is the following week. So my guess is they're coming out next week. They did say May, unless something changes. My guess is the certification, prep, and exams will be announced. They'll go live next week because the following week is Memorial Day. And I don't expect they would release these exams on Memorial Day in the United States in any event. So my bet is next week. But you have to keep an eye on this new relationship. Well, I keep saying new. It's not a new relationship. Future Media Conferences has been doing Final Cut Pro sessions for years and years and years because I've taught the sessions. Let's see what we have here. Viewpoint, I have an important question. Fortunately, sometimes I feel very slow when working on the program for a long time on 4K video materials. So it completely depends on the materials, obviously, but also what kind of hardware are you running? Are you running an M1, M1 Max, M1 Ultra, a new MacBook Pro? Are you running it on Intel? It really depends on that and the specifications of that. Yeah, any NLE can bog down with too much media, especially 4K media, 6K media, 8K media. So our friend Yari says there was a bug when you had added your own sound effects to Final Cut Pro sound effect library. Now they all show up. There you go. There you go. Did anybody expect when these bugs came out after 10.6.2 that they weren't going to be fixed? Well, as soon as I kept seeing reports of the transition bug, I said, well, that's going to be fixed. that'll be the top priority that's fixed right away. And of course it was. I came out Tuesday, and I expected the update on Tuesday. Well, it didn't come out on Tuesday. It came out on Thursday, which is the exact same thing they did with 10.6.2. I thought it was coming out on the Tuesday, and I went on Twitter and I said, is today Tuesday? It's a good day for Final Cut Pro update. And they brought it out that following Thursday. So little joke there. Mark Williams says, cross-dissolve, drag and drop over test media looking smooth and works for me. I just updated Final Cut on the M1 Mac Mini, smooth as silk for me. Very good. Excellent. For some of the history I have read as well as the Off the Tracks documentary, it seems like this may be a fence mending that was spoke of in my readings. You're talking about the announcement about Apple and professionals, which we're going to get into in a minute. Yes. Now, I'm not sure if you know that, but I was the co-editor of Off the Tracks documentary. I co-edited that with Brad Olson. We worked on it for quite a while. Brad, of course, is the producer. He's the mastermind, and he came on Final Cut Pro Radio, and I said, hey, if you need some help, I'll be glad to help you. And he said, really? I said, sure. So he called me up afterwards. This was years ago, 2015, I think it was. It might have been 2016, and we started working on it. From that point on, I helped him. I helped him edit. I'm the co-editor on that documentary, Off the Tracks. If you haven't seen Off the Tracks, I highly recommend it. offthetracksmovie.com is where you can go to watch it. There's a nice, Brad put up a real nice section of that on YouTube. There's like a 50-minute version you can watch on YouTube, so you definitely want to watch that. So let's go back to here. There's the update, as we know. And then here's what I keep talking about. Pay attention to the relationship with Future Media Concepts and Apple going forward. It's an important relationship. It's a very important relationship. I'm working on a MacBook Pro i9, so that should be fine, Viewpoint. If it's slowing down with 4K media, I would recommend the number one thing is to make proxies of all your media and edit with the proxies, and said that should help you immensely. That's usually the biggest way to take care of things, is use proxy media. Anytime, if I do like a multi-track with 4K, 6K clips, I'll make proxies of those and work with those. It's much, much smoother. That's what I would recommend as far as that goes. Let's go back to our graphics here. So there's Future Media Concepts. Pay attention. I predict we're going to see the classes next week, because the week after that is Memorial Day in the United States, and I don't see them releasing anything Memorial Day week. That doesn't make sense to me. All right, let's go back to our graphics here. So here's the biggest thing that happened today. Technology. Apple responds to open letter about improving usage and reputation of Final Cut Pro in filmmaking industry. We've talked about this previously. I interviewed Sam Messman, and he brought this letter up that was sent to Apple, Tim Cook and Apple, when I interviewed him at NAB. So, Alex Gollner is the architect of that letter. He is the one that did that. I remember when he was doing that survey. So Apple publicly stating that they'll increase the number of workshops for film and TV productions who want to use Final Cut Pro is a big deal. And Westplate's response was, we hear you, we'll make some training products. So Apple publicly stating that they'll increase the number of workshops for film and TV productions who want to use Final Cut Pro is a big deal. Of course it's a big deal. But I guess the question I have is, who doesn't think that Apple considers Final Cut Pro a professional product? I never thought they didn't think it was a professional product. As a matter of fact, when they discontinued their official training for Final Cut Pro 10.4, I think it was 2019, they discontinued training. I immediately said, it makes no sense to not have professional Apple certified training for Final Cut Pro 10.5, 10.6. It makes no sense. I said that live on the air, and I've talked with the trainer group. I said, it doesn't make any sense for them just to stop training completely. They dropped it for 10.4. There was about a year and a half gap. Now it's coming back again with Future Media Concepts. Future Media Concepts and Apple is an important relationship going forward. So certification prep and exams, they have announced that they plan on releasing this certification prep and exams in May. Well, I don't think they're going to release it today or tomorrow. So that makes next week is a prime week, because the following week is Memorial Day. And I don't think, things happen. Their schedule could change, but I don't think they're going to release it on Memorial Day week. People are on vacation, whatever. So I'm going to expect that release to happen next week. That's what I expect. So that was one of the things I want you to keep your eye on. The relationship with Final Cut Pro and with Apple and Final Cut and Future Media Concepts. All right, let me do here. So Apple publicly stating they'll increase the number of workshops for film and TV productions who want to use Final Cut Pro is a big deal. Let me go back to here. Final Cut Pro prep and exams. This is all public information. Training, certifications, and inspiration for Apple creative users. Number of workshops for film and TV productions who want to use Final Cut Pro is a big deal. I have a feeling this was already in the works. I have a feeling this was I can't say anymore, but I have a feeling this was already in the works. Apple being specific about Final Cut Pro, they are publicly standing behind Final Cut Pro, including its use in TV and film. Promising specific steps seems significant to me. It's more than just fluff. Of course, but I always expected this was the case. We've been told by the Apple Final Cut Pro team in person at the Final Cut Pro Creative Summit, of course, film and TV is important to the Final Cut. This is not a revelation. Now, the fact that they get more attention, that's good. Everybody, I am all for getting more features included in Final Cut. Everybody knows that I have a master list of things that I want Final Cut Pro to have. And as a matter of fact, I've had it since Final Cut Pro 10.5. Since Final Cut Pro 5, not even 10.5. 101 things. Audio roles-based mixer, project improvements, scrubbing projects in the browser, for example. A clip logger, which is something I'm not sure if they're going to do, but I like to see that. Better dedicated keyframe editor with advanced keyframe adjustments and options. Clipboard manager, BRAW support, browser improvements. This one gets me 5 clicks to make default share destination. Should be 1 right click. It takes 5 clicks to change your default share destination in Final Cut. Those are the things that we want that'll benefit everybody. If Hollywood wants specific things, TV people to do Hollywood films and stuff. And I think they wanted just a little bit more publicly Apple stating that they do support Hollywood and do support TV. Is there a correct way to output audio files to the editing program Pro Tools? I think you have to do. You have to get is an application that goes in between Final Cut and Pro Tools. Yes, people do it all the time. Major films have been made with Final Cut Pro. Of course, the audio was with Pro Tools, right? Of course it was. That's just the way it is. So, what is it called? X something to, I forget what it's called. But there's an app out there that translates Final Cut Pro audio for Pro Tools specifically. Audio import from a supported file type. I just did a quick search. If you have a specific scenario, that may be a better search. Absolutely. X to Pro. There you go. It's called X to Pro. I think it's in the App Store. I have a copy of that. I've had it since it first came out. So that's how you get your audio from Final Cut Pro to Pro Tools. That's how you get it. Let's get back to this. So, Alex says, Apple being specific about Final Cut Pro, they are publicly standing behind Final Cut Pro, including its use in TV and film. So, yes, but I never expected that they weren't. I never expected that they weren't. I guess that's what I'm saying. We get frustrated when there's such a long time to get features like dupe detection. Took 11 years. It's here. We got it. Can they improve it? Yes, they can add color. I mean, there's so few colors in Final Cut. I wish they'd add more color everywhere, not just for dupe detection. So absolutely. Absolutely. Let's go here. Yep, that's right there. Let me go back to here we go. So this is one of the articles that were out. Apple promises changes in Final Cut Pro after video editors' complaints. So Alex did a letter to Tim Cook, Final Cut Pro, about this. And this is what they said in this article, Apple Insider. To the authors of the recent open letter regarding Final Cut Pro in the TV and film industry, the creative community has always been so important to us at Apple, and we are grateful for your feedback. The company added, it has plans in place to address some of the feature requests. It also added it recognizes the need to work alongside video editor to support film and TV projects. Apple says it will begin offering certifications for professional video editing in May. It will also establish a panel of industry experts in the summer and expand the content and frequency of Final Cut Pro workshops for film and television events. Let's go back to this page. Who's doing the training and certification? Future Media Conferences is doing it. The original open letter back in April aired a handful of grievances about Final Cut Pro, including the fact that its usage in the professional TV and film industries has died off since the 2000s. It also argued for Apple to add The few remaining features our industry has consistently stated are needed. The few features that TV and film everybody has their own group of features they want. I have a list of 78 features I'd like to see added to Final Cut Pro. The film and TV industry thinks there's a couple that they need, 2 or 3 that they need. They need more than that. These features will benefit everybody. I've been about feature requests since Final Cut Pro 5, not 10.5, but Final Cut Pro 5. I started my top 50 list back then. So, a well-crafted response from Apple that says something about their commitment to Final Cut Pro, but what that is still debatable. So, if you use Final Cut Pro, don't you have faith in the Final Cut Pro team? I've never lost faith in them. I've modified my expectations, as I've said multiple times, because of the lack of updates over the last 3 or 4 years, feature updates. But I've never lost faith, just modified expectations. Now with this new official Apple statement, my expectations are going back up again, which is exactly what I wanted to happen. My expectations are rising from the mid-level, and I'm expecting them to go up again. 10.6.2 was a nice surprise feature update. And then I expected the bug fix for 10.6.2 came out with 10.6.3, and here it is today. They should get you on the panel. You've got some great ideas. We will see how that plays out as far as getting me on the panel. There are only a few things I would personally like to see for Final Cut Pro updates, so I'm just continue asking for them in the feedback menu within Final Cut Pro. I have 70, 76, 78, 79, something like that. So I understand people are saying they just want X, Y, and Z, but I can tell you, you want more than that. You absolutely do. How about project scrubbing in the browser? True round tripping with integration with motion. A clip logger. That's something that I'd like to see. How about a better dedicated keyframe editor with advanced keyframe adjustments options? How about a clipboard manager with a history to remember copied and pasted items for reuse? How about BRAW support in Final Cut Pro? Browser improvements. How about more distinctive and accurate playhead locators, scrubbable projects, adjustable secondary and primary storyline parameters in the inspector, access to match color, compound clips expand for editing in place in the timeline, effects browser improvements, save, rename, make favorites, load and organize transitions effects generators in the effects browser via drag and drop directly in Final Cut Pro. That's only the top 15. That's only the top 15. I have 70 more or 60 more, and I'm constantly adding to that list. In the past, the Final Cut Pro team has used my list when they talk about features. Of course, I don't expect all of them to happen, but there's some that happen, some that absolutely happen. I've had faith since day one. Over the years, I kept doubling down and hoping on the up. Major life choices have been made, so this is great news. Philip Allen says, I'll take all of those. That's only the top 15. There's 60 more besides that. Just go to fcpx.tv and click on top requests, and I will keep that updated as we go forward. I need more than just a few things. I'd like to see more than just a few things. So we'll see how it happens. I hope Apple makes its original Apple TV content exclusively cut on Final Cut Pro, creating more jobs for Final Cut Pro users. But if you want Apple to do that, other companies can do the same. They can insist on what platform their director or producer uses. I don't think that's a good thing to start. I think Apple should choose their directors and producers and let them use whatever platform they want. Now, they can encourage Final Cut Pro, absolutely. I hired editors at the National Archives when I was down there, and they had to use Final Cut Pro. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. If they knew something else, that's fine, but we use Final Cut Pro. And I don't know what they use now because I haven't been down there for a while. It's a great list, and many of those items on the list should have been addressed in the past 11 years. Craig, a lot of them, I have taken items off the list as the Final Cut Pro team has added them. There was one specific one, I forget which one it was. Market diversity, I think this pertains to, absolutely. So, yeah, Final Cut, listen, we like Final Cut Pro. You're watching this, you're watching Final Cut TV, you're watching these. We talk about Final Cut Pro, Final Cut Pro, Final Cut Pro. I'm on here more than anybody else talking about Final Cut Pro all the time. I probably have, how many of these shows? 50, 60, 70 live shows. These are for you to come here and talk about. Chat about Final Cut Pro in real time. The Final Cut Pro team absolutely sees these. I know for a fact that they do. So this is your chance to make your comments known to the Apple team, as Final Cut Pro team as well. Right? Yes, it is. So let's go with the who could that possibly be? Hello. Yeah, we were just talking. Oh, don't mention who this is. Okay, I won't. We were just talking on this show, Final Cut TV. We're talking about the great news that Apple came out with today. They made a public announcement about, well, they've said multiple things. You had to have seen it, right? You have to have seen it. Let me pull this up here for you. Apple responds to open letter calling for Final Cut Pro improvements. Well, you saw that, right? Well, of course. Yes, I know that. .6.3 came out today. Thank you very much for doing that. I have not updated yet, if you can see on my screen. Apple responds to open letter about improving usage and reputation of Final Cut Pro in filmmaking industry. So when that went out this morning. Oh, it did. Okay. Alex Gollner, you know who he is? I'm sure you do. Apple publicly stating that they'll increase the number of workshops for film and TV production who want to use Final Cut Pro is a big deal. It absolutely is a big deal. And first off, all the listeners that are watching this show appreciate the Final Cut Pro team. I didn't say that's who you were. I'm just saying. All the listeners on this show appreciate Final Cut Pro team. So if you have any connection to the Final Cut Pro team, please let them know. But this is good news. I expect... Look, my expectations for Final Cut Pro has leveled off over the last 3 or 4 years because of the lack of feature updates. And I didn't lose faith, but my expectations were lowered. As of today, actually as of 10.6.2, 10.6.2 came out and it went up a little bit. My expectations did. Now today they've gone up a little bit more. WWDC? Really? WWDC and the Final Cut Pro Creative Summit in the fall. Those are two events that we should be paying attention to. Well, that's very interesting news. So Final Cut is going to be at WWDC. It's been there the last couple of years, at least been on screen a little bit. Looking forward to the Mac Pro, the M1 Max Mac Pro. We just got a comment from Philip Allen. 10.6.3 is an energy generator for me. I got excited with each release. I do too, Philip. We all do. Listen, like I said, tell the Final Cut Pro team we all appreciate them. And my expectations are going up again. That's what I want. Up, 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 up. So WWDC is going to be exciting. That's what you're telling me. I can say that public. Yes. Nobody's listening. It's just you and I talking. Anyway, thank you for calling in as usual. I appreciate it. The audience appreciates it. Final Cut TV, that's where we are. And thanks for tuning in. Continue to watch. Final Cut Pro Team, bravo. Apple, bravo for talking about supporting Final Cut Pro in a professional market for film and television. It benefits all of us. Thanks for calling in. I'll talk to you next time. Call in anytime. Thank you. Okay, well, we can't talk about who that was, but that's nice. The Final Cut Pro team listening to Final Cut Pro users and a reaction on problem with transition is very fast. Yes. It's not the first time that they put out a feature update and had to do a bug fix within, a couple weeks. It's happened before. It's happened multiple times. 4 weeks. I think the quickest has been 3 weeks, if I'm not mistaken. Bump 100%. I think you mean my expectations bump 100%. They're up higher than they have been. They were like mid-level. The last 3 years, they've got to about right here. Now they're 10.6.2, they went up a little bit. And then today, with the news today, they went up a little bit more. So, did I see anything with Final Cut Pro at NAB? Yes, I did. Yes, I did. Once again, Future Media Concepts. They had a booth on the show floor with Final Cut Pro stuff. They also had other Final Cut Pro things happening. So it says in partnership with Apple. Apple talked today about, what did they say? Apple being specific about Final Cut Pro, they are publicly standing behind Final Cut Pro, including its use in television and film. I guess I never thought that they weren't publicly standing behind it. When I talked to the team at the summit, they always talked about it. It's just not the only thing they're going to be working with Final Cut. That's certainly part of the equation. Bump is a thread term to keep that topic on top and shows support. Yes, I understand that. I certainly understand that. But do you all appreciate the Final Cut Pro team? Can we get a round of applause for the Final Cut Pro team? Yes, we can. We most certainly can. Final Cut Pro team. There you go. There's your round of applause for today. Thomas Collins says, I especially appreciate you having your Final Cut TV and other Final Cut shows, and I feel that you truly represent most Final Cut Pro users, and I believe that Apple does actually listen to your views and recommendations. They do. They know about stuff. There's an applause. There's some more applause. Everybody's applauding the Final Cut Pro team today, that's what we want. Everybody is applauding the Final Cut Pro team. We've always liked the Final Cut Pro team, even when things were a little bit slow. Philip Allen says, hands together. There you go, Final Cut Pro team. Thank you. Thanks for Alex Gallner for putting that thing together as well. He nudged them. I mean, the Final Cut Pro team, they have a path for Final Cut Pro. Okay? They might be looking at a year in advance what they're going to do in the next year, maybe 2 years. I would not be surprised to see Final Cut Pro at WWDC maybe talking about a new update for the fall. Maybe Final Cut Pro 10.7 comes out with an Apple event when they introduce the new M2 Max, the Mac Pro. You know, I wasn't going to get a new Mac Pro, but maybe I will. Maybe I'll keep this MacBook Pro that I have for travel, for NAB, for the Creative Summit when I travel, and maybe I will get a new Mac Pro. I have to see how that works. The Mac Studio is not what I specifically want. I like my MacBook Pro better than the Mac Studio. For me, it suits me better. But the Final Cut Pro team has a path going forward. It seems like maybe we're going to get some acceleration in the next coming weeks, months. iMovie is updated as well. Same problem with transitions. iMovie team, applause, please. Absolutely. The iMovie team as well. Give them some applause. Spot Lewis says double applause, so we'll do double applause. There we go. Double applause. Looks like double applesauce, but it's double applause. So Final Cut Pro team, you watch this. This is your audience. This is the people talking. This is the people talking to you directly. This is one place where you can directly hear from Final Cut Pro users. The letter to Apple was good. It has a lot of professionals in there. This is also good. These are regular users. Everybody's professional. You need the card slots of a Mac Pro. Somewhat, yes. I have my Mac Pro for 2019. I have like 11 US Thunderbolt ports on that thing, and I have a slot of USB 3 things, and I have a couple of other odds and ends. I don't need 8 slots. The 2019 has 8 PCIe slots. I need the faster spec PCIe because the faster spec PCIe is faster than Thunderbolt. Okay, is it PCIe 4.0? Is that what it is? It's faster than Thunderbolt 4. I talked to Sam Messman about that at NAB. He said if you want a Mac Pro, it has a faster in and out. Okay, so I want the faster spec. I want the faster spec HDMI port, a couple of other things. I just like a nice chunk of horsepower. Would I be satisfied with this Mac Studio? Absolutely. Absolutely. I was going to stick with the MacBook Pro line going forward. In other words, when the MacBook Pro 16-inch M2 comes out, I'll take a look at that versus a new Mac Pro. We'll have to see, because I got this MacBook Pro, the M1 Max 16-inch, which has been really, really good. I really appreciate it. But maybe I'll just use this for portability, and I'll keep the Mac Pro. Then again, I might get the M2 MacBook Pro and a Mac Pro. I might get both. We'll have to see. Just wondering why you'd get the M2 Mac Pro and not the Studio now. I don't need it now. I don't need the Studio now. That's one reason. The M2 Mac Pro is in my buying cycle for the end of this year, 2023. I might get a MacBook Pro and a Mac Pro. Maybe. We'll see. I am a big Apple buyer. I buy the latest iPhone. When the iPhone comes out, I'll buy that. And I like having power. So I don't need a Studio. I just bought the 2016 MacBook Pro, and I just got it November of last year. M1 Max. This has been fantastic for me. I'm running 2 screens, a 34-inch screen and another one over there to the side. Let me just show you what I have. Here we go. So this is what I'm running right now. This is off my MacBook Pro. You can't see my MacBook Pro, which is down there, but I have the MacBook Pro opened up. I'm watching that screen. I have certain things there. And I have another over this way. I have another this way, another screen over here that you can't see that I have things on. But this is this. I have a 34-inch LG monitor that I'm running with it. So I have 2 monitors plus the MacBook Pro screen. And it's the M1 Max. And it's the top of the line everything. 4 terabyte SSD, which is extremely fast. I don't need the Studio. I don't need any Mac right now. I don't need any Mac this fall. We'll see what they do. If the M2 MacBook Pro, 16-inch MacBook Pro comes out with them M2 Max or whatever they're going to do, that'll be something that I would certainly be looking at. I don't know about the Mac Pro. It depends on what they are going to show us. So if they show us the Mac Pro at WWDC, which they did in 2019, and they did when the circular trash can Mac Pro came out, both times they were previewed at WWDC. So we'll see if they indeed show the Mac Pro at WWDC. It'll likely be out in 2022, in the fall of 2022, at an Apple event. The last 2 years, they've had Apple events in the fall, October and November. They introduced the original M1 Max, and last year they introduced the Mac Pro, the M1 Pro, and the M1 Max. So this year, I think they're going to do the exact same thing. In 2020, they introduced the M1 Max and Final Cut Pro 10.5. Last fall, they introduced the 16-inch MacBook Pro and Final Cut Pro 10.6. This year, it's going to be whatever version it's going to be, the Mac Pro, Mac Mini Pro, whatever they're going to do, and Final Cut Pro 10.7. It's my prediction. Okay, makes sense. I think Final Cut Pro team also worked with iMovie, or maybe I'm wrong. I think there's some sharing of resources in Apple when it comes to pro video products. And Philip Hodgetts says that iMovie is not a scaled down version of Final Cut Pro. Philip Hodgetts says it is a full version of Final Cut Pro with features turned off and some things modified. So obviously, if it's a full version of Final Cut Pro, the Final Cut Pro team works on iMovie as well. Fun day. May the 19th. Fun day. Let me see when the other... Let me see. Let me just check something here. I'm going to pull this over. I'm just looking. Final Cut Pro. So that was that. When did we... Oh, my kitty cat's crying outside my door. Oh, there we go. All right. 100%. So, everybody's happy today? Everybody's happy today, right? Final Cut Pro team. Apple is getting behind Final Cut Pro publicly, which they've never retreated from Final Cut Pro publicly. It's just giving them a little nudge in this direction, in a certain direction, is good. I've heard from people that they've had my list when they do Final Cut Pro stuff. When they do, they've had this list. Batch audio sync audio and video clips. Key frameable opacity bar with fade handles directly visible on a timeline video clip like the volume bar on audio clips. Who doesn't want that? Wouldn't you like to have audio fade handles on a video clip directly in the timeline? You don't have to do Control V and open up the browse, the whatever they call that thing, the video thing, and then click on something else and then do them. No, directly on the clip in the timeline, just like the fade handles are on audio, you have them on video clips, direct click, fade handles at each end, and an opacity bar directly on the clip in the timeline. Doesn't that make sense? Just like the the audio clips, do it for the video clips. I have 75, 78 of these. I'm going to get up to 100 before too long. Thank you again. Thank you very much. Absolutely. Don't tell the Premiere community that iMovie is the same as Final Cut Pro. We'll never hear the end of it. It's not the same. It's definitely not the same as, yeah, I understand that. I'm just saying people have talked about, well, it has underpinnings of Final Cut Pro. Apparently, no, it's actually Final Cut Pro with features turned off and modified. That's from Philip Hodgetts. That's what he said. He should know. Do you think the only changes with 10.6.3 are those transition issues, or is there anything else? There's a couple of things. So the audio effects, right? We're back for couple of our people. This was a bug fix. We had feature updates in 10.6.2. This is a bug fix specifically. They're always optimizing Final Cut Pro. When people say, oh, all I want is optimization and stability, that's a cheap date. You're a cheap date if that's all you want from the Final Cut Pro team. That should happen all the time. Every update should be more stable and faster. That's automatic. That's not a feature update, though. Which is a good monitor to choose for Apple M1 Mac Mini? I like LG monitors. I've been very satisfied. I've had 2 or 3, and I really, really like them a lot. But I like longer, skinnier monitors. This is a 34-inch. This one is a 34-inch, 21:9 aspect ratio, and I really like this a lot. So you can see your comments over there. See your comments as they come in. I put them up on the screen. There you can see them. They take that out of live demo mode. So I like LG monitors. You mix music and Logic, right, Richard? Yes, I do. Have you ever mixed in Atmos? I wonder if that feature is in the cards for Final Cut Pro. I have not mixed in Atmos. I've seen a lot about it. I think Logic now supports it. So I use Logic for editing podcasts an hour long. I need a scrolling timeline, okay? I'm looking at the waveform when I edit. I need the waveform, the playhead, to stay in the middle of the timeline and let the waveform scroll underneath of the timeline. I don't want the playhead scrolling off the timeline. Where did it go? It's off the screen in Final Cut. So I need, when I'm doing audio edits, which I do in Logic, over 45 minutes to an hour, I need that playhead to be stationary as I'm playing the audio. So I do podcast in Logic. I do music production in Logic. I do multi-track band stuff in Logic. I love Logic for that. And I do basic short things in Final Cut. I don't do audio in Final Cut. It doesn't have the tools that I need. I need more audio tools. I need the tools of a DAW. The same reason that when they do a film, they don't do the film audio in Final Cut. They send it to Pro Tools. Exclusively, all the film people send the audio to Pro Tools. What kind of LG do you use? I use a 34-inch 21 by 9. Mine's a Thunderbolt. Is it Thunderbolt? Yeah, mine is a Thunderbolt monitor, but I have also HDMI. I don't care about the brand. I would actually get a bigger one. If I ever replace this or put this down in the studio, I'll get a bigger one. It's even bigger than this one. So, what are the odds that Apple introduces a new interconnected audio app for Final Cut Pro? Add sort of did it. Add is a very, very cool feature. Audio Design Desk, is that what it stands for? I met those guys at NAB. I went to one of their sessions, and I'll be in contact with them. I'll try to get them on the show. That's a very cool feature. You can link up Logic. You can link up the playheads in Final Cut Pro and Logic on the same screen at the same time. Now, what happens is this. Logic has a scrolling timeline. So Logic, if you set it, it doesn't have to scroll. If you don't want to scroll, it doesn't make you scroll. If you set it up so scrolling, which I do, the Logic playhead stays stationary and the waveforms go underneath of the playhead. When you sync that up with ADD in Final Cut, Final Cut's playheads does not go off the screen. If you link the Logic playhead and the Final Cut playhead up with ADD, the Final Cut Pro playhead does not go off the screen. What happens is it scrolls to the edge of the screen and then jumps to the middle, and then scrolls to the edge of the screen and then jumps to the middle. So it's like half paging. Not full paging, but half paging. People say, I don't want a scrolling timeline. Most people want it, but some people say, I don't want it. They're all grumpy. They say, well, I want the features that I want. I don't want the features that I don't want. Well, I want features for everybody. I on my list, I have B-RAW. I don't shoot B-RAW. I want it for the people that do shoot B-RAW. So if you don't want to use a scrolling timeline, turn it off. But the people that want it, don't say that they shouldn't have it. Of course they would have it. There's lots of features like that. All right, everyone. So anyway, absolutely. A little side note on my Mac Studio, I really get low transfer rates with my LaCie 6 big rate. I did a bug report already. So low is your LaCie 6 big rate, is that Thunderbolt? Is that a Thunderbolt connected RAID? I have, with my MacBook Pro, I have 3 RAID 5s connected to it, and they all work at the same time, and they're all plenty fast. I have a 64 terabyte RAID 5. It has 8 drives in it. So 64 terabyte gives me 56 terabyte usable space with RAID 5. And then I have 2 other RAID 5s, smaller RAID 5s, 4 drive RAID 5s, one Promise, one G-Tech, and I can have them all connected to my MacBook Pro at the same time. So he says, yes, it is Thunderbolt. That's odd, yeah, that you're having problems with that. You have to try some of the other drives and see if it's the drive or something else going on. So, listen, I saw one of the Mac Studios at NAB at OWC booth. That thing is a lot bigger than I thought. That is a big, big hunk of pure Mac horsepower. I don't need one. I got my MacBook Pro. I'm very satisfied with that for now, but it depends. I'll get the M2 MacBook Pro when it comes out, or the Mac Pro, probably one or the other. This is a great point or points you're making about the options within to choose like a workspace or spaces, but the option needs to be there. Yes, it does. I get 50 megabytes a second write, only 300 megabytes a second read. So I'm not sure what that rate's, that 6 rate, is that a 2 drive? I get 1,200 megabits a second on my 56 terabyte RAID 5. That has 8 drives though. I get 1,000 to 1,200, sometimes a little more than that, both read and write. And on my other RAID 5s, which have 4 drives, 350 to 400 megabytes read and write. So something's definitely up, but that's with, you need more drives. You can't, if you only have 2 drives, it won't go as fast. Each drive, you might get 100 megabytes a second to 125. So if you have 2 drives, you might get double that, 4 drives, 4 times that, etc. All right, everyone, what do you think? Do you appreciate the Apple Final Cut Pro team? Apple finally came out and said something. We got a call from them earlier today. Oh, I can't say who it was. Erase that. Erase that. We got a call from somebody earlier today to talk about Final Cut Pro going forward. Michael says it has 6 drives. So 6 drives, you should be getting faster than that. Yeah, it's way too slow. The C, too big, 12 terabytes, no problem with my MacBook Pro M1. Here, yeah. So if you have 6 drives, you should be getting much. That's 50 megabytes is ridiculous. Something's definitely wrong with that. You have to go back to the C and find out what's going wrong, or see if it's a common problem. I would check the cables, use system information to check connection speed. Absolutely. The other thing is, we just got a blink here. We might be going off the air. My electricity's blinking on and off. So far, it's okay, but we might be going off the air. If we do go off the air, thank you, everybody, for tuning in. If not, I'll continue for a minute. Make sure you have a true Thunderbolt 3 or Thunderbolt 4 cable. Oh, keeps blinking. I guess we're getting a storm. Thunderbolt 3, Thunderbolt 4. It'll say a 3 with a lightning bolt on it. Make sure it has that. If you're using a USB-C cable, that's not good enough for Thunderbolt. All right, everyone. I think we're good. Thanks to the Final Cut Pro team again. And thanks to Future Media Concepts for teaming with Apple and doing some fantastic things with Apple. They were there for NAB. They're doing the Final Cut Pro official Apple training. Where do I find the resource clips about Final Cut Pro 10.6.3? It's on the Apple website. I mean, it's on the App Store. Yeah, I should power down. I have surge protectors, but that's still not. Thank you, applause. Absolutely. Absolutely. Anyway, I guess I should be getting off here because I'm getting a lot of stuff going on. I just wanted to stay on for everybody. The Final Cut Pro team is great. There you go. Final Cut Pro team is great. That's what we like to see. And pay your electric bill. Maybe I forgot that. Maybe I forgot to pay my electric bill. So if you forgot about my electric bill, if you want to help me with my electric bill, buymeacoffee.com, Richard Taylor. People bought me. I had about $200 to spend for coffee at NAB. That's fantastic. Also, Core Melt sponsored me at NAB, and Digital Anarchy sponsored my trip to NAB. So, fantastic. Fantastic. Couple more comments. Thanks, Richard. Philip Allen, thanks, Richard. Robert says yes. Absolutely. Thumbs up. Taylor says thank you and bye, Richard. Yep, I'm going to be getting out of here now. Thanks all you for tuning in. Thanks all you for tuning in, all the listeners and watchers of Final Cut TV. And saying your thanks to the Final Cut Pro team. They do watch the show. They do watch it. I know that for a fact. And there's some things that I can't talk about yet, but maybe next week I'll be able to talk about a couple things. But thanks to Future Media Concepts for teaming up with Apple and putting on these new certification classes and exams, which should be coming. It's coming in May. Next week sounds like a good time. Long live the Final Cut Pro. Absolutely. Final Cut Pro team, we love y'all. And we hope we continue to get updates, feature updates. If you need any ideas, I'm glad to submit some. Right, everybody? Thanks for tuning in, everyone. I appreciate it. If you have any more questions, shout them out there before I head out. Let me see what else we have. Here we go. I got all kind of little noises over here. All right, everyone, go get 10.6.3. Let me just see something here. Usually I get an email. See if I can. Let me see if it's on there yet. Oh, there we go. Here we go. Final Cut Pro 10.6. Final Cut Pro release notes 10.6.3. Let's see what it says. Improves. So April the 12th was 10.6.2. This was released April the 19th, a little over a month later. So once again, that's the Final Cut Pro team doing a good job. So it only has 3 things. Improves reliability when using drag and drop to replace a transition, or improves reliability dragging a transition onto a compact connected clip. Fixes an issue where custom sound effects don't always appear in the effects browser. Those are the 3 things that were fixed in 10.6.3. Thank you, Final Cut Pro team. We appreciate you. Please keep raising my expectations. Please, they're up about here right now. I want to get them over my head by this fall. WWDC coming up in a month. Let's hope Final Cut Pro is going to be on screen for that. Along with maybe a new Mac Pro and some other M2 Macs coming out, whatever they got coming out for us. Every time they introduce a new thing, I want to get it. We'll be getting the iPhone 14 very likely, as long as that's coming out in September. That's announced in September typically, as long as it improves video performance. I don't care about any other features. All I care about is video performance. That's what I care about. All right, everyone. Final Cut Pro team, thanks for watching. Everybody, thanks for watching. And please subscribe over there at YouTube, youtube.com/Richard Taylor TV. Same on Facebook, Richard Taylor TV. Twitter, Richard Taylor TV. And Twitch TV, Richard Taylor TV. All right, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for the phone call. Talk to everybody later.